I am not aware of any time when an American president has declared economic war on everybody else. This is an amazing act. You are sending a message, and whatever herky-jerky you do, here's the message. If you're a company located in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, China, anywhere, you may have thought until this statement that your export markets in the United States were reasonably secure, that if you produced the quality that you've been producing and charged more or less the price you've been charging, that there would be American businesses and American individuals who would want to buy what you produce. And so you could send it over there on a ship or a plane and make your sale and get your revenue. And likewise, that if you relied on the United States for inputs, that they would be forthcoming more or less of the quality that they had shown and the price they had charged. All of that is over. This is extremely important. How does a business in Malaysia, they're making decisions all the time, like all businesses are. Are we going to hire more people or not? Are we going to build an extra addition on our factory or not? Are we going to rent a warehouse to hold our stuff, commission a ship to carry a load to San Francisco, or whatever? They can't do that now because they do not know what's going on. And here, it's not only that President Trump did it, which blows everybody's mind, but you can't even rely on what he did because he undoes it the next day, redoes it, changes it, and the whole thing now, we're supposed to wait 90 days. That's terrible for a business person. And you know what's going to happen, and what Wall Street already sees, is we're going to have a recession simply because businesses are holding back spending money, which means they're not hiring, not because they don't want those workers, but because they have to wait now to see whether that plan, which involves hiring 5,000 more workers, will or will not. I'll give you an example. Mr. Trump likes to say, I've got commitments from this company for $1 billion and that. Yeah, but if you ever looked at those commitments, verbal or even when they're written, they're qualified. They have exemption clauses which say, if the condition, which all businesses do, there's nothing illegal here, there's nothing unusual here, but the bottom line is we are now facing a recession. One of the smartest hedge fund leaders in the world, Ray Dalio, he has said now a recession's coming. The fellow from Moody's, Mark Zandi, he thinks it's coming in a matter of, I kid you not, weeks, a recession. That is an outcome. Whatever else happens, every country in the world, every business in the world that's involved in international trade one way or another is holding back, is waiting. And you know, I'm sure this is true. They're looking for other less volatile. And you know the number one economy in the world that's less volatile than ours? I hate to tell you, the People's Republic of China. That's where they're going to go. If I was a producer in, I don't know, Peru, I'm looking at unbelievable tariffs that are going to hurt my market in the United States. Where do I look? Well, the other big world of economic power out there is the BRICS. And that's the alliances around China. That's where I'm going to find a market that I didn't have before. Now I'm going to look there. Now I'm maybe going to make a deal, lower the price a little to get into those markets over there to compensate me for the lost certainty and the lost security of a market in the United States. The long-term damage that this could do to us is incalculable. I wouldn't even dare make a guess, but I can tell you, you're taking an enormous risk here. And I don't think the American people understand, whether you like Trump or not, really put that aside. This is a risk being taken, and it tells you two things. One, that the problems of the United States are a lot more severe than we have been led to believe, because you wouldn't take this kind of a risk. Mr. Trump isn't stupid, and the people around him aren't stupid, and they're not going to do what we're doing if they didn't think, wow, we got to do something in a hurry. And the second thing you learn, whatever else you think, is we're in for some difficult times ahead. No matter what happens, even if it works to Mr. Trump's advantage, even if he's able once a week to stand in front of the cameras and tell us he threatened X country with a tariff, and they agreed to give us this thing, and look at how my pressuring them worked. Even if he gets it, even if he can stand up there week after week in the glare of the lights, telling us what he got by his deal making, the things I just said don't go away. They're not untrue because he has this dramatic popularization moment. This is very dangerous politics. We are a country in a state of denial. That is, most of my fellow Americans are denying what is going on. I've been saying for a while, look, China is now something the United States has not had in 75 years. A serious economic competitor. After World War II, all of the potential competitors, Russia, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Canada, Japan, whoever you might have met, they were all wrecked by the war. And we came out king of the hill. So you and I grew up in an America that was growing, that was expanding, and an understandable thing happened. We indulged the pleasant thought that it would always be like this, that it was just up and away. And no matter what we did, we would just be that exceptional place, the United States. It was an illusion. We should have understood it. We didn't. But now we have an economic competitor. The Soviet Union was never an economic. It had military, nuclear, it was serious and all that. But economically, nothing. Even today, the United States GDP, the size of our economy, in the neighborhood of $27, $28 trillion. Russia's $3 to $4 trillion. This is an elephant and a mouse. China is the real McCoy. And we have to come to terms with that. And we're not doing it, and so we're kind of surprised. The Chinese are not backing down because they know, the way a country knows, we're not a little kid anymore. We're not a mouse. We're not Russia. Russia's a country much, much poorer now, economically speaking, than China. Russia's population is like ours. China's is 4 times ours. You really want to engage in a even saber-rattling level of military with a country that has nuclear weapons, has the capacity to deliver them right here in the good old USA, has 4 times as many people as we do, and is used to levels of poverty Americans can't imagine. And the Chinese, they're telling the whole world, we've arrived. Don't be intimidated, they say, by that big bully, because we've arrived and we're an alternative. I remind people, if you add up the total output of goods and services by China and its allies in the BRICS, that's roughly 60% of the people of this planet. And you compare them to the U.S. and its allies have 28% of the world's output. They're already a bigger economic unit. If they can't trade with the United States, they'll trade with each other, and they'll do better at that than we can because we have a smaller economic unit, Europe and us, basically Japan. So you're right, they're playing their cards. Here's an irony. We were once in their position. We once told the British Empire, we're not playing by your rules. We threw the tea in the harbor in Boston, and we said we're going our own way. That we fought 2 wars with them to make sure that they backed off. They lost, we won, and we became an independent country, which grew until it far surpassed England. The child outgrew the parent, which is how that goes. China is now looking at a world, and the world is looking at China and sees pretty much the same story. And that means we have to understand, even if we don't agree as a nation with that story. You can't pretend it isn't there. You can't pretend they don't believe it. They're acting on it. They demonstrated over the last 20 years that they can produce anything we produce as well or better at the same price or cheaper. Americans are buying their products because of that. We don't like it that we're buying all the China. We're not buying. No one's holding a gun to our head. The Chinese can't force us to buy what they produce. Walmart is full of made in China. There it is. They now produce the best electric cars and vehicles. They produce the best solar panels, and you're not going to succeed. And if you close yourself off, there are people in America who think like that. You're closing yourself off from the bigger, more rapidly developing part of the world. That means the gap will keep growing. It is not good for the United States. So for me, this is all sad information that we're not getting the message that our historical moment is trying to get through to us. A tariff is a tax of X percent, and for example, Trump did a blanket 10% on everything coming in from outside. So whatever the price was, let's say 100 for something coming in, now it's going to be priced at 110 because that's the tariff. Whoever the importer is pays 100 to get the thing to the country from which it comes, and another 10 goes to Uncle Sam. Okay, that's how the tariff works. But that's a regressive price increase. If you buy that object, you're going to have to pay 110 instead of 1. If Rockefeller buys the object, same thing. But for Rockefeller, that's a trivial, it could care less. But for you, 10% more for the cereal you eat in the morning and the coffee and, the shoe polish and all the other things you buy as part of a regular life, they go all up 10%. With your income and your wealth or lack of it, that's a much bigger burden than, for example, the income tax, which at least in our country goes up higher percentages the richer you are. It uses the concept we should tax people according to their ability to pay. If you have much greater ability, you kick in more, a higher percentage. The tariffs are not that way. The tariffs are flat. They're like a sales tax. I pay it, and so does the homeless person standing next to me pays the same percentage higher on the price because of the sales tax that I do. That's not fair, but whether you care about that or not, you know what it does? It takes more relatively out of the poor person's situation than it does out of the rich, and that worsens the divide. We already have a problem in this country with the degree of inequality. These tariffs make that worse, and that's not a good idea, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or anywhere in the middle or outside of that range. And no one discusses it. So beyond whatever hustles on the stock market his billionaire buddies are doing, with or without that, these tariffs are a regressive tax. It's not something that we ought to be doing in our country at this time when half of our people qualify one way or another for the government support, which, by the way, they're taking away from them these days. Also, you're playing with fire here. We're now not talking anymore about details of government-to-government operations. We're talking about upheaval inside our country as you have a mass of people watching the so-called American dream drift further and further out of their reach.